How can your favorite NFC team win their division in 2025? We've covered the AFC, so now it's time for the NFC. Whether it's embracing a new quarterback, elevating the one already in the building, or getting it together on defense, every team is looking to capture that magic and make it to the postseason in 2025. How can they do that? Let's find out with this video. We're gonna start with the NFC East.
How about them Cowboys, baby?
You know, just for that, we're starting with Philly. But why? Because you're annoying and it's my video. That's why. The Philadelphia Eagles can win the NFC East if their defense is even a little recovered from the free agency departures. The Eagles lost a lot this offseason. Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Darius Slay, Oren Burks, but most importantly, Kenny Pickett. We know Philly's offense is going to be otherworldly, assuming it's a continuation of last season. Former New York Giants Saquon Barkley is going to continue to thrive. Jalen Hurts, something tush push, and the weapons will remain elite, assuming they channel the energy that lies within Dallas Goedert's hair. What will set them apart is if their defense can survive, and they did get replacements. They drafted Jahad Campbell because Howie Roseman knew that other teams were going to draft players who have the traits. So Campbell fell and Roseman was like, don't mind if I do. They signed Adoree Jackson, I assume because his name's cute, and perhaps most devastating of all, they swiped another former first-round pick from the New York Giants. They lost a lot of players, but if their offense stays the course and their defense doesn't regress, they're golden. The New York Giants can win the NFC East if they experience a night and day shift from the Daniel Jones era. Of course, asking the Giants to win the NFC East is a big ask, because they're still rebuilding from the lackluster Daniel Jones era. Side note, Indy, he's your problem now. Wait, wrong picture. That's better. That said, they do have a roster full of players with a ton of potential. Abdul Carter is a pass rushing god that's being added to an already strong defensive front. Malik Neighbors is going to be even better this year now that he's catching passes from Russell Wilson and not Tommy the Situation DeVito. But in reality, they're probably not going to win the division this year. They have a horrible offensive line, they have a defense that picked off all of 5 passes last year, and they have a skill position group that, outside of Malik Neighbors, may not even exist. That said, if Brian Daboll and company can somehow turn this franchise over on a dime after the departure of dimes, it's a distant possibility. The Washington Commanders can win the NFC East if Jayden Daniels avoids a sophomore slump. Jayden Daniels just had perhaps the greatest rookie season an NFL quarterback has ever had. The only problem is that quarterbacks have sophomore slumps all the time. There's film on Jayden Daniels now. Defenses know what he does. Defenses know what he's capable of. He even tore his ACL in the wild card round and the team mismanaged his injury. Oh wait, wrong person. He's got a ton of pressure on him now, as Washington has barely sniffed a Super Bowl recently because Dan Snyder spent the past 25 years trying to sniff the cheerleaders. And the defense isn't great, particularly against the run, so asking the defense to win the division for him is a particularly big ask. They now have to rely on their improved offense and their now legitimate franchise quarterback. Robert Griffin IV can get them there. They have to climb Mount Greased Light Pole to do it, but the roster is strong enough that a division title is within reach. The Dallas Cowboys can win the NFC East if all internal issues are completely resolved. The Cowboys have a lot to fix right now. They've got a contract dispute with Micah Parsons that's gonna last until Jerry Jones stops taking pictures with women that are a third of his age. And they also have players like Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Trayvon Diggs who all need to recover from injuries. They have strong players and a new head coach that can help this team recover after a disappointing 7-10 season just last year. They didn't do too much to improve last offseason except to tell their fans to yell, "This is our year!" just a little bit louder. However, if they can improve the issues that lie within, both in terms of contracts and injuries, it is possible. Especially because they have a playoff caliber roster on paper when healthy.
How about them Cowboys?
Dude, stop it! The NFC North can be won by the Chicago Bears if Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams coexist perfectly. The Bears' goal is to finally get that ever-elusive 4,000-yard passer. The closest quarterback to that mark for the Bears was Eric Kramer, who I promise you actually exists. Ben Johnson was brought in as the head coach to help unlock the offense with creativity and running and gunning, and he overdrafted his version of Sam Laporta, didn't he? He did. However, the offense may finally have a proper system put in place. With a good receiver core, an offensive line that was improved with acquisitions of Jonah Jackson and Joe Thuney, Caleb Williams could actually blossom in 2025. So the Bears vaulting to the top of the division is entirely possible with Ben Johnson as their head coach. And speaking of Ben Johnson, the Detroit Lions can win the NFC North if they don't regress under their new coordinators. So Ben Johnson's off to Chicago, and Aaron Glenn's off to the Jets, where he will assuredly be the scapegoat the instant things don't go exactly according to plan. Luckily, Detroit has a roster in place where they're able to get the best people for the job, as the best candidates looking to climb the coaching tree are clamoring for that job. They've got their new offensive coordinator in John Morton, who spent the past 2 seasons as the passing game coordinator for the Denver Broncos, and they got Kelvin Shepard as their defensive coordinator, who spent the past 4 seasons coaching the Lions linebackers. On paper, their roster makes them the front runner to win the division again, and they've still got the majority of their offense from last season, and their defense is hopefully recovered from other injuries. And they've still got their head coach, whose daily diet consists of cinder blocks and steel. As long as their new coordinators ensure that the team doesn't lose any steps, they will easily repeat as division champions. The Green Bay Packers can win the NFC North if they play well within the division. The Green Bay Packers were serviceable last year, and they did just well enough to make the postseason. They lost one game outside of their division, and that was against Philadelphia in week 1. The only problem is that when they played their division opponents, they were cheeks. They were 1-5 within the division, and they were very nearly 0-6. But Carl Brooks blocked a game-winning 46-yard field goal as time expired against Chicago. That blocked attempt devastated Bears fans as they were eagerly anticipating another double doink. Like I said in my previous video, I know win more games isn't the most innovative strategy, but if the Packers can do better than 1-5 within their own division and fully unlock their offense, they can sneak out a division dub. The Minnesota Vikings can win the NFC North if both sides of the ball ensure a successful JJ McCarthy first year. It can't be anything besides JJ McCarthy. He's got everything he could possibly want as a quarterback. A good offensive line, a slew of weapons, a name that doesn't rhyme with Smirk Smuzzins. He's got it all. The Vikings have to ensure that the transition from Sam Darnold to JJ McCarthy goes as smoothly as possible. The team was great last season, going 14-3, but that record will be hard to top, especially with a technically rookie under center. But they were a good team last year. They dominated the turnover battle. Their offense was explosive. And the team culture with KOC is about as good as any culture in the league. Kevin O'Connell clearly believes in JJ McCarthy. And the Vikings have the ability to contend if everything falls into place like it very much can. If they can continue that and actually pull off a win against the Lions this year, they have a chance to upset the reigning NFC North champions. Before I go any further, if you like what you've seen so far, subscribe to the channel. I've got plenty of long-form videos coming up. They're fun, informative, handsome, and everything you could ask for. Once the biggest NFL news story of the week isn't a rookie getting speeding tickets, we're gonna go ham on some shorts. Stay tuned for more stuff, subscribe to the channel, and now, back to the video. The NFC South can be won by the Atlanta Falcons if the potential of the team is fully unlocked. The Falcons aren't a bad team, and they can be an even better team now that they're likely to be on the outside of the Kirk Cousins era. They've got a really talented group of young players who ascended in 2024, and they could ascend even further in 2025. Michael Penix was decent in his few starts at the end of last season. Drake London became a legit wide receiver 1, and they have 2 first-round pass rushers who could help transform Atlanta's pass rush from egregiously bad to only kinda bad. If the aforementioned pieces hit their stride and reach their potential at the same time, the Falcons could upset the Bucs and win the NFC South. I know you're up there. I know you're there, but you're in timeout until further notice, okay? Have that breakout year that everyone thinks you're gonna have every year, and then we'll talk. Are we clear? Okay. The Carolina Panthers could win the NFC South if their defense is no longer historically bad. I know a lot of the Panthers season depends on the progression of Bryce Young, but if last year's Cincinnati Bengals taught us anything, it's that you can't win the division with a leaky defense, no matter how good your offense is. The Panthers defense was awful in 2024. Historically awful. They gave up the most points in a season in NFL history, and they were the first team to allow over 3,000 rushing yards in a season since 1980, but they did make improvements. They signed Tershawn Wharton away from the Chiefs to plug up the BP oil spill level leak on their defensive line. They signed Trayvon Moehrig to help them forget the fact that their other starting safety is Nick Scott, and they kept their cornerback duo of J.C. Horn and Michael Jackson. If their defense isn't absolute ass cheeks, and if their offense can take that next step, they can shock everybody and rise to the top of mountain. The New Orleans Saints could win the NFC South if Kellen Moore proves to be an absolute wizard. The Saints are in trouble this year. They have an aging roster full of players who are constantly injured, declining, or a quarterback who's a rookie. They aren't expected to do very well this year, but even if they remain healthy, the likelihood that they succeed is still very much up in the air. But they have a new head coach in Kellen Moore who has a decent track record of success. That said, he's never been in a worse situation from a coaching perspective. He's been a part of good offenses as the offensive coordinator of the Cowboys and the Chargers. And most recently, he was in that position for the Eagles, where he led easily one of the best offenses in the NFL. The Saints clearly think he's the guy. They hired him away from the Eagles 2 days after they won the Super Bowl. If he is the wizard that New Orleans clearly thinks he is, and as long as the team stays healthy, they have an outside chance to pull off a miracle. Just don't get too crazy with it. Having it happen is extremely unlikely. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers can win the NFC South if they do the bare minimum. The NFC South is not very good. Tampa Bay won the division last year basically by default because they easily have the best roster in the division. The offense is versatile and sneaky explosive, though it remains to be seen how the offense will operate this year in the post-Liam Cohen era. And their defense is perfectly fine when healthy. They genuinely just have to do the bare minimum and stay alive to win the division. They have to exploit Carolina's weak defense, they have to throw it all over Atlanta and exploit their weak pass rush, and they have to show up literally at all when they play the Saints. The division is unquestionably Tampa's to lose. If they play to the level that they're capable of playing to, they should have no problem taking home the division victory. The NFC West can be won by the Arizona Cardinals if their pass rush goes from lackluster to dominant. The Cardinals were a forgettable team in 2024. Exciting pieces were there, but it didn't translate to significant success. They have an exciting quarterback whose scrambling highlights can best be shown with Benny Hill music. Thank you for your time. They have an explosive wide receiver who is fine but inconsistent in his rookie year. But their weakest area from last year, however, was their pass rush. Their leader in sacks last year was Zaven Collins, who sounds like a made-up Shakespearean folk hero. That said, they addressed it big time this past offseason. They signed Josh Sweat from the Eagles. They drafted Walter Nolan in the first round. They went to the bingo hall and signed Calais Campbell. Side note, don't make fun of players for being old. If you're in your late 30s and you can still hang with dudes in the NFL, who am I to talk shit? They're in a division with a lot of question marks in terms of pass protection, especially since San Fran and the Rams both lost starters on the defensive line, and the Seahawks' offensive line is more of a gray area. If their pass rush is truly transformed and can help them win critical division matchups, they can sneak out a division victory. The Los Angeles Rams can win the NFC West if their offense doesn't show rust. The Rams are probably the team to beat in the division this year. They've got a quarterback who broadcasters will say won a Super Bowl anytime he's within 500 feet of a camera. As a Bengals fan, we get it. He won a Lombardi. Shut the f*** up. But they're good elsewhere. They have a true 3-down back in Kyron Williams, and they also have a good 1-2 punch at receiver in rocket power extra Puka Nacua and future Pittsburgh Steeler Devontae Adams. They do have an older offense, but a skilled one at that. And they've also still got Sean McVay as their head coach, who is still one of the better offensive minds of the game. If their offense doesn't show their age and can stay on the field, they can remain atop the NFC West for the second straight year. The San Francisco 49ers can win the NFC West if their health and schedule allow them to return to former glory. The Niners got banged up on offense last year. I don't have time to list out all the injuries, because I've got to do today. Due to them finishing in last place, not only do they have a last place schedule, but they have the literal easiest schedule in the NFL this year. Only 3 of their opponents this season made the playoffs last year: the Rams, the Bucks, and the Texans. Okay, technically 4, but whatever. And now they have a new look team with an about to be paid Brock Purdy, a defense that lost half its equity to the Denver Broncos, and a newly healthy team overall. The 49ers are a good team when healthy, but they got badly screwed last year. 2025 is a fresh start for San Francisco, and they've got an opportunity to bounce back. They very much can if they remain healthy and win the games they're supposed to win this year, which according to their schedule should be a lot of them. The Seattle Seahawks can win the NFC West if Sam Darnold actually is the guy. Sam Darnold was the marquee free agency signing from this past offseason after a stunning career-saving season with the Vikings. The Vikings had everything Sam Darnold could ask for: great weapons, a great offensive line, and a restraining order against Adam Gase. Seattle, they don't have that as much. They've got decent weapons in a good wide receiver 1 in JSN and an experienced Cooper Kupp. The offensive line, unfortunately, is not nearly what it was in Minneapolis. They drafted a decent prospect in Gray Zabel, but they didn't do much else to address one of the worst units in the league from last season. If Darnold can overcome that and prove that he actually is the guy Seattle thought he was when they signed him to a 9-figure contract, he can vault Seattle to the playoffs after they narrowly missed it in 2024. And that'll do it for this video. If you haven't already, click that sexy little subscribe button. I've got plenty of long-form content and even more previews that I can't wait to share with the world. Give this video a like, comment your least favorite thing about me, and stay tuned for more sports content that you didn't ask for.